I met Mackie through Bruce Boger, who a lot of you guys may know, and Leadership Forum. Ended up meeting Mackie, told Mackie about Home Resource Network. He came through, and that's it. The whole thing comes together. It's just funny how you're doing what you need to do every day, making sure people are taken care of, and people know this. So that's how I ended up meeting Mackie, and glad I did.
Me too. Me too.
That's Home Resource.
Thanks, Barry.
Yeah, please.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, we packed the house out this morning. This guy that is scheduled to be your speaker, I don't know who he is, but that press release sure sounded good. I want to welcome you this morning and say thanks to the ACA Martin for hosting this event, also for the Home Resource Network for the opportunity to share some information today. When I was first asked to bring the message today, I was asked to share the history of Greenlight window films, and I'm happy to do so, and will do so to some degree. But more importantly, my goal is going to be that we share some business principles and practices today, some things that you can take with you, hopefully a couple of nuggets that you can take with you that you'll recognize with your business and say, okay, maybe we can tweak this, maybe we can do it a little better. So with that, as I talk, I'm going to use I and me a lot, but please understand there was a lot more than I and me. There's some key people within the organization that have helped us get to where we are, and so I'm not going to discount them at all, but for the practicality of our time limits, then I will refer to myself mostly. The story actually begins in August of 2009. I was serving as a national sales manager with a security company, burglar alarms and closed circuit television, and I was doing some market research, and I ran across this thing called solar film. Security film. I thought, well, this sounds like it could go hand in hand with what we're already doing. And so I did some research, took it to the president of the company, and I said, this is something we need to incorporate. Well, he liked the idea, but never got around to doing anything after a couple of months on it, and I continued to research. And as I researched, I found that there's this category of product called solar film. Well, that really resonated with me because I'm all about energy efficiency and being practical with our resources. Well, I did the research and began to talk with people. I picked up the phone and called a guy in Ohio, and thankfully I got the right guy that answered the phone, that I called him at the right time, and he took the time to answer a lot of dumb questions because I literally knew nothing about the industry. Talks went on and communication over probably 6 weeks or more, and he said, I want you to meet someone in St. Louis. And it was a husband and wife that had owned their business for 20-something years, sold their business recently. So I went over and met with them. They were gracious enough to give me a full day of their time. And I went over with a long list of simple questions, like what are your biggest problems? What do you do in this situation? Very practical, daily type of questions that I was looking to get answered to see if this might be a viable business for us. Well, I left that day knowing that I was going into business. I gave my resignation to begin November 1st. Figured that over the next 2 months, I was told by the CPA, start your business January 1 for tax purposes. Okay, well, spent 2 months putting everything together. I said, well, I'll hit the ground running January 1, actually January 2, and because we're watching football on January 1. But I'd said everything will be in place by then, and we'll start generating revenue, and we'll get our feet wet real quick. Well, it didn't quite work like that. First of all, I had a lot of decisions to make. One was timing of the product. So I've been guilty of making a decision and being way far ahead of the curve on a product or service before. So I didn't want to make that mistake again. So I analyzed the timing, and I thought the timing was perfect for this product. And 5 years later, I can tell you the timing is perfect for this product in this sector of business. Then I look at market analysis. Well, I probably didn't do as good a job in market analysis as I should have because I basically did very little local market analysis. I looked at the industry, looked at the product, and then being some kind of self-confident salesperson, I said, well, we'll make the market whatever we want it to be. Well, it doesn't quite work like that, but it's turned out okay. So then one of the other decisions that you look at as a business owner, what is your unique selling proposition? Well, I didn't have one of those either. My unique selling proposition is that I'm probably part of the 1% nationally that came into this business with no background in window film. In fact, 6 months prior to starting the business, I didn't even know what window film was. I was totally naive about it. But I said that's to my advantage because I don't come in with any preconceived notions, any bad habits. I'm looking at this totally different than all of my competition. And today, I can tell you that I look at it totally different than my competition today. So today, fortunately, along the way, I came up with a unique selling proposition, and that is a single product that is called Interlogic VEP35. And that, I'm not going to get into the details of that product, but that really does separate Greenlight Window Films from its competition with that one product. Then another area of decision making is who are going to be my suppliers? Well, that was not hard because I had developed such a good relationship with this gentleman in Columbus, Ohio that helped get me out of the gate. And I was very impressed with their product. It was a product that was not, by far, not the cheapest product, but I've never wanted to be associated with the cheapest product because I never want to have to say I'm sorry for poor quality. So when I go to the grocery store, I don't want to look around the corner and see if there's one of my customers on that aisle because I've sold them something that is not up to standard. So being part of the supplier chain, it was easy to pick out that supplier. Then I looked at my resources. What are my resources? Financially, am I able to go in here and sustain a business for a period of time? You know, what are all of my assets and what can I put to use for this business? Well, I assessed all that. And so I said, okay, I'm good to go. I'm going to play ball in this arena. Well, in December of 2009, leading up to that January date, it comes time for branding. And the first branding decision I had to make was a logo. I was thinking, okay, 48 hours, we'll have a logo, we'll be up and going. Well, 5 weeks later, 2 designers later, we have no logo. Okay, during that same period of time, I'm starting the website. And so I don't know anything about putting together a website, so I go hire a professional to do that, and they did a good job. They gave me just what I wanted on the website. Good or bad or indifferent, they gave me what I wanted. So there I am, January 2, 2010, first day in business, and I have no logo, I have no website, I have no business cards, and time is going. Well, I don't feel the pressure because these decisions are too important to take any shortcuts on it. Well, you know, in branding, I mentioned the logo, but our brand is really our business. Our brand is, do we do what we say we're going to do? Do we create a really great customer experience from the time that it was first introduced to Greenlight Window Films to the time the installation is complete, we packed up and leaving the location? So the branding is a very important part of the business, and it can be done so not with stationery and a website, not only those things, but it's the customer experience that we provide, and do we do what we say we're going to do, which has to do with integrity there. Well, another key part of putting together a business is putting together a business plan. Well, I'm all for a good business plan, but it wasn't until almost 2 years into the business that I wrote my business plan. So, you know, as you can tell already, I guess I don't always color in the lines. You know, I don't always do what the normal process is, but somehow or another things just seem to work out okay. But in the business plan, for me, it was probably would have been a large waste of time for me to do it going into the business because I didn't know enough about the industry, and I wanted to be flexible enough so that I can adapt and mold this company as it would need to be molded. Now, I will tell you that I made a major mistake because I didn't have the business plan on the front end. And that major mistake, I won't get into a lot of the details until a little bit later, but that major mistake was a very costly mistake because I saw a big canvas and landscape there to operate within, whereas if I would have been focused on what I originally founded the mission to be, I wouldn't have made that mistake. So we'll come back to that a little later. Well, let's talk about financing. How are we going to fund our business? Not only at the beginning of our business, but today, as each of us are in business now for some period of time. All right, what happens when we have cash flow needs, short-term needs? How do we come up with funding? How do we fill those gaps? Well, the typical way that people fill financing needs are going into savings, selling off investments, going through the SBA, the Small Business Association, perhaps using a bank. I don't know how valuable a bank is these days for a startup business. Certainly if you're in business and you have a track record and a relationship there, then it makes it easier to go in and negotiate and see if there's an opportunity to do business. And if you're looking for large sums of money, then you might need to call in an investor that might want part of the business. And if you're looking for those kind of transactions, Paul right here, he's the guy to see. He puts business owners and businesses together and is very good at what he does. Now, a part of running a business on the day-to-day side has to do with financial statements. How many in the room use a financial statement actively to run your business and manage your business?
That's great.
You're afraid? What's your thinking?
Well, because I don't think a lot of people do it. They don't understand the importance of understanding the cash flow and, the profit loss piece of it. I don't think people understand it.
You're so right. For me, during the month, I know where the money's coming from, but I don't know where the money's going out. I can't keep track of that because it goes out in so many different ways. So at the end of the month, when I get that financial statement, I'm able to see, okay, well, wow, I can make changes here. I can adjust here, and it will help us. Well, for 16 years, I was self-employed. I was a one-man show. The company had no assets to speak of. And so my P&L statement, there's two parts of the financial, the P&L and the balance sheet. The balance sheet didn't mean anything to me because there really wasn't anything there. I didn't have receivables. Money was immediate. I didn't have assets. The business didn't have assets. So the balance sheet wasn't a big deal. The P&L statement was. Well, today, I get the P&L statement, and oftentimes I'm looking at the balance sheet first because the balance sheet tells me about my fixed assets, my accounts receivable, cash I have in the bank, and those type of things. The P&L is where I go to find where the money's going and where it's coming from. So that gives me the accurate picture of my business. And being able to, if you don't use or don't fully understand a financial statement, I would urge you to reach out to someone who can help you there because it's such an important part of the business, especially if you've got a lot of activity, a lot of transactions going. Now, when it comes to skills in a business, I want you to think about leadership. Think about a leader. Think about one person that you know. And think, why do you consider that person to be a good leader? Well, personally, I have a group of men that I look up to, a couple of giants among the group. And I think about their leadership. And the things I identify about them is that they're dependable, they're highly disciplined in what they do, and they're very consistent in their behavior. These people do not waver. You know what to expect from them. And those traits are very admirable for leaders. I'm going to ask you, as leaders in your business, are you exemplifying those type of characteristics? Are you consistent? Do you make decisions one way because the pressure is on, and another way when things are going smooth? Well, your associates, people that are looking at you for leadership, they're taking note about that. And when it comes times when it's crunch time, then we may not be able to get their full buy-in for our leadership because of our track record. So I'm going to talk a little about bold decisions. Now, I believe that anyone that has been in business for any period of time, we have to make some bold decisions along the way. Some to where the textbook doesn't say yay or nay, that we have to really figure things out. Sometimes we have to shake the dice and roll them because we don't know. We're at a point. Well, I'm going to share with you 3 bold decisions that I have made. First bold decision was year 2. I was part of a group that was generating 17% of my revenue. 17%, that's a significant amount of revenue for any business. I made a decision to step away from that situation, not knowing if it was a good decision or not, but I felt like there was more that I needed to be focused on, and I need to be focused a little different. Well, that 17% turned into a 30% gain over the next 12 months. So shook the dice, came out ahead, turned out okay there. Another bold decision, election time, 2008, and I'm very involved in politics. Well, I step out in the political arena because I believe two things. I believe that religion and politics are too important not to discuss. Well, I step out and I have some people whose opinion that I value very much. And they said, Mackie, what are you doing? You can't do this. You own a business. No, I got to do it because I look at myself in the mirror each day and I have to know what I stand for, right, wrong, or indifferent. Well, if we use as a report card financials, revenue generation, well, it paid off. I wasn't looking for a payoff, but if I look at it in that way, was I right, wrong, or indifferent? It actually, my stance, although I really don't think my stance mattered that much, but it just turned out to be that the business continued to grow at a very good rate. So those kind of decisions are very important. Another bold decision was made at the end of February. Well, actually, it was made in the fourth quarter of last year, but it was implemented at the end of February. And that is, I closed down one division. I have two divisions of business. I closed down one division. That is the automotive division of my business. To give you an idea of what our industry is like, I am one of probably two companies in the greater Kansas City area that derives most of its revenue from residential and commercial clients. Everyone else in the industry in the Kansas City market derives at least 70% of their revenue from the automotive division of their business. Well, I just closed down our automotive division, and I did so with a good reason, and I'm sleeping fine at night. The results are still to be determined. It's way too early. But these are the kind of bold decisions that I'm going to ask you that do you need to make a bold decision? Do you need to step outside the line of conformity and what is normal within your industry and do something that you're driven to do that will make a significant significant difference in your business? So only you can answer that. So what we've talked about, well, let me talk with you about some failures, because we've all made them. If we make decisions, we're going to make failures. We're going to have failures. Well, one of my big decisions that I made that I failed on had to do with search engine optimization. Very important part of our business is that our customers find us online. They do their research online, they find us. Our customers 35 to 65 years old, they live in houses that are 200,000 and above. They're college educated, they're energy efficiency minded, they're return on investment minded. And our product, let me take a shameless plug here. Our product, if you're putting money into your house or your business as far as energy efficiency, I've been told by 2 energy auditors that our product is the second best thing that a person can spend money on as far as investing into their home, as far as return on investment. First thing is just making sure that you have the right amount of insulation. Then solar window film provides the best return on investment beyond that. And the manufacturer says typically 3 to 5 years in most situations. I've done ROI calculations that have been like 2.76 years to 6 years, but still a very healthy return on investment. So what I've talked about so far has to do with the nuts and bolts of a business. Now let's talk about the culture of your business. Because to me, the culture really is who your business, what your business represents, what your logo states to your customers. Because the culture of a business is an ever-changing thing. If we have multiple employees within our organizations, then our culture is going to change. But culture is nothing more than values and practices that we exhibit each day. So the culture of Greenlight Window Films, when I founded it, was we were going to be customer service professionals. So when I hired the operations manager, that was number 1 on my list. It wasn't could he lay film and could he manage installations and manage people. It had to do was he the right fit did he exemplify what Greenlight Window Films was all about? So that hiring, going back to the hiring decision earlier, the importance of making a good hire. You know, culture evolves over time. Culture kind of changes as we get on down the road and we experience things, different experiences within our business. It is very important that our culture is aligned with our company goals and our mission. So make sure that that is in alignment, because when a culture gets out of bounds and it gets off track, it's really hard to get it back on track, because you've got, everyone has different ideas, different responsibilities, agendas. So make sure that if the culture of your business is important, that you look at it. And I say look at it, it's as easy as stepping aside and looking to see what Dean is doing in his role with the company. It's looking to see how Gregory responds in various situations, how our associates carry themselves. That has everything to do with a good culture. Now, there are 10 assessment keys for the culture. So when you're looking at your business, ask yourself, do we have a clear mission? Number 2, are your associates committed? Do they take ownership of your business? Number 3, are your associates empowered? Do they have the ability and authority to make decisions? Number 4, do you have high integrity? Not only among your associates, but looking in the mirror at myself. Do I carry the integrity that exemplifies what a leader should be and what my people are looking at me to do? Do your associates have strong relationships among themselves? That has a lot to do with the telling statement of a culture within a company. Is there highly effective leadership? Number 7, do we have effective systems and practices? Do we know what to do when the fire gets turned up? Number 8, is there a commitment to learning and personal growth? Dr. Stephen Covey says sharpening the saw. I think is a very good habit to be in. Number 9, do we have a high degree of adaptability? Can we change? Can we adjust as the market changes, as demand changes, as market conditions change? And number 10, do we have a high degree of accountability? So I'm a member of a small men's group, and it has everything to do with accountability, because we're trying to be better business people, better husbands, better brothers, better sisters, better sons, better daughters. And we hold each other accountable, and we share openly with what we do, what we want to do, and then we come back and revisit that. Gregory mentioned Bruce Boger. Bruce has served as my personal coach for 4 years, and Bruce heads that group. And it's a very important meeting for me each month to be able to be part of that special fellowship. Now, in closing, I would like to just share with you that, how do we get here? I call it the dash. I was born in 1957, way back then. And today is April 16. There's a dash in the middle of that. And what's significant is not June 14th, 1957 or April 16, 2014. What is significant is the dash. It's everything that happens in the middle. So what I didn't know during that dash, I didn't know what the Lord was preparing me for. And what he was preparing me for is I was working around some really talented people that taught me the importance of managing cost, the importance of integrity, of doing what we say that we're going to do, the importance of all the aspects of running a business. The Lord was preparing me for Greenlight Window Films. Because see, I'd been self-employed for most of my career, but I'd never had employees. I'd never had assets. I'd never had customer schedules and shipments and liability insurance and taxes that are paid monthly and all that. So all those things Mackie Beall wasn't ready for until he said, you're ready and the time is now. So I would ask you that if you're being prepared, take notes, surround yourself with great people. People will talk with you. People will be happy to share with you if you reach out and say, hey, I'd like to buy you lunch, I'd like to learn more about how you got to where you are, or I've got a problem and I'd like your input on it. So you'll be surprised how easy it is to get to people to access that information. So I would say be bold, be good at what you're doing, be well read, be prepared, and just be the best you can be and jump in with both feet. So I'm gonna open the floor up to any questions.
Did your company ever come close to failing?
No.
I'm glad to hear that since I work for you.
That's an interesting question, and when I say no, I really mean it. Because, yeah, and I think the topic there is cash flow. Because when you're on a business that the growth is like this, you know, that's a wonderful thing, but a business can die because of not being able to buy inventory, not being able to meet payroll, not paying the taxes. The money's out there, the accounts receivables are out there, and they're 100% good, but the immediate need for cash is now. So Stuart, yeah, the answer is, you know, we could have died, but fortunately we were well funded and were able to infuse that money. We shook the money tree a few times and covered the short-term needs, and so we were able to stay alive. But I'll say that if that weren't the case, we wouldn't be here. And it wasn't because of something bad, it was because too much good was happening. And, you know, today I'm looking at a cash flow situation. We've got a big job out there that looks like it's going to be coming our way. And, you know, there's going to be a need. Either I'm going to have to come up with some more money, or I'm going to have to go out and borrow it on some short-term, you know, 90, 120-day kind of thing. So.
Can you share what percentage of your business is commercial and residential, and kind of what your ideal client or sweet spot is?
Okay. The question is, what percentage of our business is residential versus commercial, and what is our sweet spot? What are we looking for? Our business on the number of sales skews higher on the residential side, and I'm going to say roughly 60% residential. On the revenue side, it's probably 70% residential because we get into some large jobs. If you take out the extraordinary sales on the commercial side, it's probably real close to 50-50. So we generate a lot of residential sales, and those sales may be $200 to $5,000. We do a lot of $200-400 jobs, and we're happy to do them because we know that if we take care of that need for that person, then they're going to refer us, and it's not uncommon that our referral business is pretty strong because we're able to solve those problems. Now, what is our sweet spot? Our customer has 3 issues. They have too much sun, too much glare, and fading issues. That's who calls us. So that's really our sweet spot. Anything else?
Earlier, I think you were going to say something about failure with SEO.
Yeah, I may have just skimmed past that because that's a failure. The question was about failure with making good SEO decisions. Now, what I've learned about SEO is that I know enough just to be dangerous. You know, I conceptually know a whole lot about it, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know all the ins and outs of how everything ties together, but I have a very clear, broad picture. Well, I'd interviewed a couple of companies and made a selection that I want to go with this company. Well, because of the importance of internet-driven business for Greenlight window films, that is a critical decision. Now, this company delivered. They increased our phone ringing by some degree, but I also knew that we weren't touching the possibility. So I went to them and I said, we're on page 3 of the search engines, and we should at least be on page 2, maybe the bottom of page 1. And they said, but your phone's ringing. Yeah, it is, but you know, we're far from being where we should be. So they couldn't come up with a good enough answer for me, so I went ahead and made the determination Now, that would have been in the fall, that would have been late third quarter, early fourth quarter, 2012. Well, what a